Hi guys. Okay, so I realized that after I recorded my parenting differently than our parents did video, I realized I left out a few things that I really wanted to talk about. So this is just an addition to that first video. I want to teach you three other things that I have used in order to parent my children differently than I was parented. And in those other videos, we talked about honoring the child's design. I showed you how I parent my own children through their own unique human design. But there's four other things actually. I want to go over with you. I don't have any slides on this. I just want to talk to you about it. And you'll also be able to find these topics inside of the literature companion. Okay. So, one thing that I want us to do differently as parents, and one way that we can break the cycle of using patriarchy and capitalist lessons to parent our children, is through teaching them accountability and not shame. Okay. So many of us grew up with punishment, being punishment. There's always going to be consequences. If you do this, then something terrible will always happen. If you disobey me, then I'm going to punish you. There was this constant threat of not enoughness, like if you weren't doing enough to please your parents, then you were going to end up in a hellscape. And especially if you grew up religious, then they would tell you that the Lord didn't, or, whatever God it was that you served in your religion wasn't going to shine favorably upon you because you were supposed to respect your parents no matter. And that's something that so many of us are deconditioning from even to this day, is the fact that you are supposed to respect your parents, honor your father and mother no matter what. And that made it really difficult for us to actually express how we felt. And so, what I want you to do with your children now is, instead of saying, if you do this, there will be a punishment, instead replace that with cause and effect kind of consequences, okay? Let your child know that for every action, there is an equal opposite reaction, that everything it is that they do will trigger a different event to happen. Now, this isn't to say that you need to be blaming your children for your anger, because that is absolutely not okay. All right. As the adult, you were supposed to be the emotionally mature one. I know most of us didn't grow up with emotionally mature parents, and that is a difficult concept for us to deal with. Okay. But it is your job as the parent to be emotionally responsible. So instead of saying there's going to be a punishment, and that punishment is making, when you make me mad, I'm going to hit you, or things like that, instead saying things like, listen, when you don't clean your room, then you have your iPad taken. When you don't, you know, do your laundry, then you go to school with stinky clothes, and then people might say you smell bad. Ability, not shame, not making them feel bad for not doing something, just letting them know this is what happens when you don't actually do the thing. Letting them know, I'm trying to help you out. Okay. I'm just trying to help you out. You go to school, your friends might not be as nice and tell you smell like a stink bug. That's supposed to be my problem. I don't really know. Okay. And it's okay to make room for their emotional releases while still reinforcing responsibility. Okay. Ask yourself, what do I want my child to learn here? What do I want my child to learn here? So, my oldest daughter is in competition dance, and for the most part, we all go to her competitions together. Her nationals was on a Tuesday, which is also the same day as trash day. My son, he knows that he's supposed to pick up or bring out the trash cans the night before. And we were already running just a tad bit behind. And then we're getting outside, and he realizes he hasn't taken the trash cans out yet. And so he's hurrying and rushing to do it. And I was like, Avery, it's not your fault that we're running late, but we did leave out of here 2 to 3 minutes later because you were rushing to take care of responsibilities that you were supposed to take care of last night. As a result of this, when you get home, we will be removing your PS5 from your room for 2 days, because you knew that your responsibility was to take the trash cans out the night before. We tell him, when you put your video games in front of your responsibilities, which aren't that many, then this is the consequence of that reaction. There's no yelling, there's no threatening. This is the action. This was your action. This is the reaction to that action. Plain and simple. Now, he is an emotional manifesting generator, so he was He cried. He even fussed at me. He was like, if it's so easy to get it done, why don't you just do it? And I was like, I'm gonna forgive that one. I'm gonna forgive that. Okay. But I allowed him to have that emotional release. It's necessary for him. Okay. But what did I want him to learn? That his responsibilities to our household come before his video games. Again, he has two responsibilities: take the trash cans out and do his laundry. That's not a lot for a 12-year-old. Okay. And constantly reinforcing that this is your responsibility. And it's okay if you're upset about the reaction that happened. It's okay if you didn't appreciate the cause and effect consequence, but you have to know that that happens. And when we move away from, well, you should feel bad for not listening to me and just saying you have to take accountability for the way that you behaved here, we raise a lot emotionally mature, way more emotionally mature children that are allowed to have their emotions, okay? Which brings us into the second piece that I want you to know is breaking the cycle of emotional suppression, okay? So many of us were taught, especially if you were a man, taught you were shamed for crying, for being angry, or having really big feelings, telling you, oh, I'll give you something to cry about, belittling the way that our parents belittled us when we were coming up. They made it seem like what we had to deal with wasn't good enough, that it wasn't a big enough deal, that they were making us emotionally responsible. Like, well, what I have to deal with as an adult is so much bigger than what you have to deal with as a child. And just basically saying that our feelings didn't matter. And we can't do that with our children, right? When we're constantly one upping other people, that's how you turn a child into a narcissist, okay? By making them feel like their emotions are too big, by making them feel like the way that they're reacting is not, no, it's not okay. And we have to support our children in moving through their emotions and through like letting their emotions move through their body rather than avoiding it. Because let's talk about the 9% of the human populations that are manifestors. Their not self theme is anger. My husband, when he is not getting what he needs, he gets angry. That is his natural reaction. He doesn't need to go to anger management. He needs to figure out what's triggering him to be in his not self. Okay. But there's nothing necessarily bad or wrong about it. It's just how he is. But when we tell our children, you can't cry, there's nothing for you to cry about, I'll give you something to cry about, wipe those tears, get over it. You're telling them that it's not okay for them to be themselves. And then they wonder why they grow up and they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to talk to anybody. They're not in emotionally healthy relationships because they were told that their feelings didn't matter, right? And you need to ask yourself, am I uncomfortable with their emotions because mine were never well? Ask yourself that. Why do your children's emotions bother you? When my son, when I told him he was going to lose his PlayStation when we got home, he cried. Again, that's what he needed to work through. I didn't belittle him. I told him to take as much time as he needed. What the fuck do I look like telling him he don't need to be crying? That's stupid. We cannot be the parents that suppress our children's emotions the way that ours were suppressed, because how well did that really work out for you? Okay? Not a single damn one of us has escaped adulthood without being in therapy. And a lot of it was because our parents told us to be something that we weren't, told us that our feelings weren't good enough, that they weren't valid. We don't want to do that to our children. So we shouldn't shame them for crying or being angry or having really big emotions. It just doesn't get you anywhere. It gets you in the same place that your parents are now, which is in the fucking doghouse. While you're talking to your therapist, right? So, the last thing that I want to talk to you about is how you reclaim your boundaries. Well, no, there's actually two more things. My bad. How you reclaim your boundaries without controlling your children. Okay? Boundaries are not threats, they are sacred containers. You can teach your children how to honor your own limits without fear. People tell you all the time, like, oh, well, when you become a parent, you give up this and you give up that. But I'm also like, but I'm allowed to have fucking boundaries with my children. They're not allowed to have unfettered access to me. They already did when I was growing them. They had a whole 9 months to do whatever it was they wanted with my body. Now, I am back to me. I teach my children, and my husband knows this very well. I need a lot of rest. I'm a projector. Bitch is constantly sleepy. I crawled in the bed yesterday at 12:30 and my son came in. He was like, it's 12:30, mom. I was like, yeah. He's like, you're already laying down for a nap. I was like, I already need some rest. And my kids know when they see mom laying down the bed, they just go ahead and exit. Okay. They got each other. They got their iPads. They got their dad. They got the whole outdoors. Go do something else. Mom's resting. That is a boundary that I hold with my children because I show them how I care for myself through embodiment, not just through telling them. And you can show your children how to have boundaries not only with you, but with other people through that embodiment. Our parents didn't teach us boundaries. Our parents taught us you need to go hug Uncle so and so. You need to do this. You need to do that. Our parents taught us that other people should have unfettered access to us, regardless of how we feel. And that's just another patriarchal lesson that we've had to learn is that, oh, well, you have to give your time and your money and your space to other people. You have to constantly do for other people, especially if you were an eldest daughter who is now a mom. You feel like there's never going to be enough for you. You feel like you can never get space and time for yourself. And that simply isn't fucking true. Okay. You have to teach yourself through your children and tell them, do my boundaries teach safety or do they instill fear? I show my children how to have boundaries by showing them how I rest, by showing them how I don't just let them have my dessert because I got them their own dessert. I show them how I respect myself through that pure embodiment. And then that also teaches them how to have boundaries with other people who might make them feel unsafe, who might make them feel uncomfortable, and teaching them that not every single person deserves access to them simply because they're an adult or simply because they exist. And our parents didn't teach us that. And that's something that we must teach our children. Okay. How's this feeling right now? I'm so glad I decided to record this. I feel like this was so necessary. Okay. Don't just teach your children and say things to them by pointing the finger the way that our parents did. And like I said in the first video, sometimes it's difficult for us because we're like, well, I'm going to be different from my parents, but then we don't have an actual blueprint for what to do differently. And then we end up repeating their, things. We end up repeating their habits. Our parents didn't have no boundaries. Still, half of y'all parents, I don't know half of y'all parents because I don't let my parents in my life anymore, but half of y'all parents still call you whenever they need something and they expect you to drop everything for them. Because you don't have no boundaries with them because you were taught, well, they're your parents, they're supposed to get unfettered access to you, right? And that's just not true. And then when your sister's calling or when your cousin's calling because she wants you to pick up baby's kids from school, you're just supposed to drop everything and go do that because family is everything, right? And it's like, you can have boundaries with the people that you are closest to. And the people who love and care about you actually want you to have boundaries and they're going to help you keep them in place. They're not going to be ones to tell you, well, you don't need to do that with me. They're not going to do that. They're not going to say that. They're not going to treat you like that. Okay. And I don't want you to ever feel like you have to put a boundary up because you're afraid of something. Every single boundary that you put up should be to protect yourself in the most loving and healthy way. And every single way that you put a boundary up, that is you teaching your child how to put a boundary up that also protects themselves and also shows that they are loving on themselves and choosing themselves. Okay. All right. The last thing that I want to talk to you about and how we parent differently from our parents is how we redefine respect. Because again, respect we were taught growing up was that it was hierarchical and not mutual. You automatically had to respect those adults because they were your elders. Respect your elders. Respect your elders. Well, excuse the fuck out of me, but being an older person does not automatically make you right. Being an older person does not automatically make you the fucking authority in what you should be doing. I used to hate listening to adults because I'd be like, bitch, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And I'd be like, that adult is telling me to do something completely stupid. And again, I'm a projector, so I just have this chip on my shoulder. I don't believe that most people know what they're doing. But we were taught, well, stay out of grown folks' business, and that's none of your concern and things like that. And we were just asking for mutual respect coming up, and we didn't get it. And that is one of the easiest ways that we repeat the patterns is by telling our kids to mind their business. It's not any of their concern. Instead of respecting their inquiries, they have questions. They want to know. It's okay for us to explain things to them in a way that they will understand. That's okay. Because the more we suppress their questions, one, the less that they ask questions, the more that they're going to find themselves in situations where they didn't want to be because they didn't have the courage to ask any questions. And two, the less we suppress their questions, the less they fucking know. And then we're looking around like, why don't you know this by now? You're 20 years old. And they're like, because I asked you when I was 7 and you didn't fucking tell me. Respect is mutual. When you fuck up and you hurt your kids' feelings by accident, tell them you're sorry. Tell them you're sorry. Humble yourself before your child and tell them you messed up and you ain't mean to hurt them. Okay. Even if the intent to hurt them wasn't there, it doesn't matter. It doesn't overrule the impact of what happened. Humble yourself before your child. Respect them the same way you would want to be respected as a child then and as an adult now, because your children will end up turning to adults that will demand respect. Respect them now. Show it what it means. Don't demand respect without modeling it either. This is exactly what I'm telling you. When you messed up, show them that a way to honor respect is to honor them and say, I'm sorry. That was my bad. I'm so sorry. What can I do to fix it? Tell me what you need in this moment to help it feel better. Why is that so difficult? It's because our parents never did. It was never modeled to us. And sometimes we still think that with children, we just tell them what to do and they will listen. No, model it. And again, don't just think that because you're their parent, they're supposed to listen to you. That is teaching blind obedience, and we don't want to teach our children that, because that's how you keep them slave to systems like capitalism and patriarchy, by blind obedience. Okay? Ask yourself, am I teaching compliance or am I teaching connection? Am I teaching my children to just listen blindly to whoever is talking? Or am I teaching them to connect with people that they really want to follow and that they really want to be involved with? Because when you teach compliance and you teach them to just listen to their elders and just to do what other people tell them to do, you're teaching them to uphold the very systems that have oppressed us through patriarchy and capitalism. But when you teach them connection, you teach them to question. When you teach them connection, you teach them to think for themselves and to say, no, you know what? I think I could offer a different perspective. That's how you move humanity forward. I get it. There's a lot of humans out there that are here to teach us what it means when you don't evolve. I'm not one of those people. And I take it that you're not one of those people because you're in this course. Okay. Our children deserve to have boundaries. We teach them boundaries through how we have boundaries with them because we deserve that too. Okay. We teach our children how to be emotionally mature by not suppressing their actual emotions, by not making them feel bad for having emotions, because bitch, you still have emotions. How you gonna tell a child that's basically brand new here not to have emotions when your 45-year-old ass still has emotions? No, 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 no. Okay? We teach them accountability, not shame. You don't say there's gonna be a huge punishment here for you if you don't do what I say. You say, when you do this, this is what happens. When you do this, this is what happens. Which would you like to do? That's it. And a little illusion of choice when it comes to raising children never hurt anybody. Okay? Like my daughter, she loves, you got to ask her yes or no questions. So I don't be wanting her to go to school looking crazy, my youngest. So I'll pick out 2 outfits that I have already approved of, and then I let her pick from there. The illusion of choice. She got to pick which one she liked the most. It still felt good for me. Just a little bit. Okay. So I hope that you found this helpful when it comes to how we can behave differently for our children. You can find all of these points again too and everything that I talked about inside the literature companion that accompanies this module. Okay. And make sure you watch the other videos too, especially the ones about how I parent my own children according to their human design, because you're going to be like, wow, this is eye opening. And if you have your child's human design chart and you want me to look through it, send me a DM. So that way we can get you set up for a one-on-one, okay? All right, I'll see you in other parts of the Institute.